Let's make way for our good buddy Ross Tucker, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, and works for CBS in Westwood One. He joins us on the program. Let me start off with Baker Mayfield. What do you think the Browns eventually just pony up and give him that big contract extension?
No, I don't think they're going to, Dan. I think they're smart enough with Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, a couple Ivy League guys, I might add. I think that they're smart enough to realize that Baker is a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. He's not worthy of one of those contracts. I mean, I can name 15 quarterbacks off the top of my head probably that are clearly better than Baker Mayfield. I think they're happy with him as a starter. But the weird thing about quarterbacks is there's like no middle ground.
Yeah.
I mean, you're either getting over $40 million a year or you're getting $10 million or less. It's just crazy. And the guy's getting $28 million or 24 like Jimmy Garoppolo. It's just because he signed his contract 3 years ago now, and it got kind of jumped over. I don't see how you do that. I heard you earlier, Dan. You made a terrific point. Nobody else can give him that money. You know, like, I don't think that there's a team that's going to say, oh, yeah, Cleveland doesn't love him enough to pay him, but we're going to. There will always be draft picks. There will always be other guys that I think you will covet more than Baker Mayfield.
We keep talking about devaluing the running back position, and last night was another example. I just don't see a team where you go, we got to get that running back. There's Derrick Henry, and then there's a bunch of other running backs. I like Kamara. McCaffrey, I would not have given him an extension. Saquon Barkley's not going to get a contract extension. It doesn't matter at that position. Do you think it'll ever matter at that position where you actually waste a first-round draft pick? Now, I know the Steelers did, but, you know, do you do that, a top 15 pick on a running back?
Well, I don't like the top 10 or top 15 pick. I don't mind down in the 20s. I think the real problem is when you give them a huge second contract. Yeah. Now, clearly, as you referenced, Dan, Derrick Henry is a difference maker. I mean, I've seen that guy in person. I didn't recognize him at first. It was the SEC championship game. I thought he was a D end. I was like, hey, who's that guy? They're like, that's Derrick Henry. I'm like, that's Derrick Henry? And Dan, you're older than me, but I can't remember another 250-pound man that was that fast. I mean, the other night, he was going just about 22 miles per hour, which is the fastest of any NFL player with the ball in their hands this year. I mean, think about that. Somebody said Christian Okoye. Christian Okoye was pretty fast. Bo Jackson was crazy fast, but Bo Jackson wasn't 250. But anyway, you guys can debate that later. In terms of what you said about McCaffrey, you know, the only thing I would say about that, Dan, is he is so valuable in the passing game. The Panthers are 3-0 in games he starts and 0-3 in games he doesn't. And he had been so durable until he signed that contract. But your overall point is a good one. I mean, I think we saw last night again, offensive line means a great deal. You look at the best teams in the league, you look at the worst teams in the league, more often than not, it directly correlates to the quality or lack thereof of the offensive line.
You know, I'm watching Odell Beckham last night, and I know that he's not healthy, but he's in the wrong system. Like, that's what I don't understand. Now, granted, they brought him in before they brought in Kevin Stefanski, but he just doesn't fit that system. But do you still keep Odell Beckham just because he still has that star power and the defense at least has to acknowledge that he's in the game?
I think if the Browns got a good offer for him, they would strongly consider moving him. I just don't know who's going to do that. I mean, with his injury history, especially the last couple of years, and lack of production, who wants to take on that salary? I don't think anybody does. And honestly, Odell Beckham Jr. is one of those guys, Dan, he kind of makes me sad. Like he's one of the all-time what-ifs. His first 2 years, I remember thinking, this guy could be like Jerry Rice. Like his first 2 years were incredible. But then he started to, you know, get all these personal foul penalties. And then there was the stuff off the field. And you just realized he wasn't going to be like Jerry Rice. And I don't know how people will take this, but it just wasn't important enough to him. And I'm not criticizing him for that. I'd probably be just like Odell. You could probably go to Germany and get like $3 million to do some endorsement over there. Like, I'm not mad at Odell, but he decided early on in his career that the off the field stuff was pretty important to him. And that's okay. It's his life. But I really thought he could be like an all-time great. But it's been the off the field distractions and the injuries that have prevented him from really even getting close to what he could have been.
Why are the Dolphins, at least reportedly, trying to trade for Deshaun Watson?
Their owner is not very patient. And frankly, I wouldn't be either. I mean, I don't know how old Stephen Ross is. I think he's in his 70s. Let me just tell you right now, I'm going on record right now. If I'm a billionaire in my 70s and I own a sports franchise, I'm not going to be patient at all. I mean, not even a little bit.
He's 81.
What's that?
He's 81.
Yeah. Even more reason. And that's why Deshaun Watson ultimately is going to get traded, because one of these owners, David Tepper of the Panthers, these guys are used to getting what they want. Yeah. It must be infuriating to be able to literally pay for anything in life you want other than winning, other than having a good quarter. I mean, these guys can call their private jet and fly to Paris tonight if they want and do whatever they want to do in Paris. But you can't buy that in the NFL. But they want it. So they're going to do what it takes to get a quarterback that gives them a chance to win championships, because they have big egos and they want to win championships.
Jared Goff goes back to Los Angeles, and I guess he's going to play with a chip on his shoulder. I don't know how that feels when you play with a chip on your shoulder going into a game like this, but it feels like it's dangerous from the standpoint of I want to try to do more than what I probably should. What do you think? So I don't know what that is like for a quarterback. I can distinctly remember in 2002, after Steve Spurrier in Washington released me, I actually started, Dan, for the Cowboys like a month later on Thanksgiving against Washington. And I distinctly thought about, if it's like a sweep to that side, maybe I could take a DB and run him right into Spurrier and knock him over, throw him in the Spurrier. Like I had that mental image. So, but I don't know what you do as a quarterback, but as a lineman, you think about, man, there might be some way if I'm near the sideline, I can chuck a guy into Spurrier's legs. Didn't work out though. Very hard to do. Very hard to pull off. By the way, it's Wake Forest at Army.
Yeah.
Wake Forest undefeated. This is a sneaky good game that you got.
Well, what's awesome about it, Dan, it's not a great Saturday of college football games. There's not a lot of great matchups. So everybody at noon, the game is sold out. It's at Michie Stadium. It's sold out. Wake Forest, best season, best start since 1944. They're 4-0 in the ACC. They're 6-0. They get a great chance to win the conference with Clemson being down. But Army's tough, especially at home. I absolutely cannot wait for this game. Noon tomorrow, CBS Sports Network.
Could you start for a Division III team right now?
That is a great question. I don't think so, man. I mean, I'm 255 pounds. No, but you know why? About a month ago, I was on Army's field, and I thought, you know what? I want to change up my workouts a little bit. I ran 1,400-yard sprints, Dan, but I was just like jogging. I wasn't like really sprinting. My hamstrings were sore for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I never do anything like that. I think you know what? I could probably start at center or guard for a really bad Division III team. And then for a good month to 2 months after that game, be incredibly sore and mad at myself.
Have fun this weekend. Great to see you, buddy. Thank you.
Always. Thanks, Dan.
That's Ross Tucker, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, and covers college football as well. He called Florida Atlantic and Charlotte last night for CBS Sports Network. And then big one tomorrow at noon. It's Wake taking on Army.